wandering around the studio. Joe Heinen from The Fan. Say hi, Joe.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So we were just talking a little bit before, and I didn't know this. Well, of course, he's working with The Fan. Joe's a big Twins fan. We were talking about your favorite player. You know that I do the home run porch, so we're not doing it this week just because of the Thursday Night Football this week. We'll probably hopefully be back next week. But I go back, my first favorite Twins player probably was Rod Carew. I mean, I remember Rod Carew playing. Carmen Killebrew, I remember him. Who was your first player that you really connected with?
The first Twins player I remember really following was Kirby Puckett.
Oh, of course.
And then,
so do you remember the 87 World Series?
Yep, I watched that one, and I watched 91.
Okay, so you remember both World Series. It's tough because with my partners on the radio, Madison and Will, they weren't even born then, so they don't know either. I mean, they've seen highlights and the whole thing, and they know the lore and all that stuff, but they don't remember watching. I mean, so you remember Jack Morris's Game 7 in 91?
Yep, and I remember Game 6 with Puckett's catch when they still had the plexiglass up there.
Yes, I got in an argument with Will about that. I said the greatest home run in World Series history was Gibson's home run in '88, which I still think is amazing because he was barely could walk when he came up and pinch hit for the Dodgers. But, of course, right afterwards, Will's like, are you kidding me? You're not going to say Kirby. And Kirby's is great, but we're a little partial to that. And it was great. I mean, the call was great. We'll see you tomorrow night and that sort of thing.
Well, and Joe Carter had that walk-off for the Blue Jays, too. It was 92 or 93.
That's true. Would have been 90. Yeah, they won both in 92 and 93, didn't they? So I don't know what year. Yeah.
They beat the Braves in 92, and 93 they beat the Phillies.
Yeah.
I forget what it was.
So you were a big Puckett fan.
Yes.
And did you go to games? Where were you born and raised?
Duluth, Minnesota.
Okay, so you're 150 miles from the cities. Did you go to games?
Yeah, I went to a few games in the Dome, and then, I left Duluth, went to college up here, and then I'd go back down. I kind of fell out of baseball after the strike.
Yep.
I got kind of back into it when Ron Gardner took over, and then my favorite Twin at that time was Corey Hunter. And
oh, really?
I went to a lot of games down the Dome, probably like 2002 till they moved into Target Field. Been to a few games in it, too.
Have you ever, okay, here's the question I always am curious with big fans. Ever get a foul ball or a home run ball or anything?
Not there, no.
Okay, have you ever, at any game ever?
At the Red Hawks game, I got a foul ball.
Okay. Well, that's fair enough. I told this story before. My son played Little League, and, he was a cute little kid, and one year we went to 15 games, and he was a huge Joe Mauer fan. I've got a great picture of him with Joe. And it seemed like every time he went, he got a ball. So I think over the years he's had 15, 16 balls, and it wasn't until 2010 when they moved into the new stadium that I got my first baseball off a Ryan Rayburn foul ball. I think I told you that story.
You did. And,
yeah.
And I laughed because it was Ryan Rayburn, and I forgot about Ryan Rayburn.
Yeah, he's kind of forgettable. He was on that Detroit team, which is actually, they were a pretty decent team back then. I'd been going since, well, the 70s, certainly. I'm trying to think of when my first game. I remember Harmon getting traded. So that was 75.
Okay.
So I went to games before that. I remember Hoskin, Powell, and Lyman, Bostock, and some of these guys.
Did Gilbert go to the Royals? Is that where
he did, and then he just kind of finished up. That was such a Calvin Griffith thing to just let him go. I mean, that was one of those heartbreaking things. He just let the guy. I think he just played out the rest of the season. That was a frustrating thing. And of course, Carew had that career year in '77. And I think he only played one more year with the Twins, and then he went to the Angels. So the Twins kind of have that history of letting great players go. Who else? So Kirby Puckett, of course, which they never lost, which was great. Were you a Herbeck fan?
Yeah, I like Ken Herbeck.
Yeah.
I thought he was great. I thought, for a big guy, he was pretty good first baseman.
I think he was an amazing first baseman.
He had a lot of
probably the best one we've ever had. I always tell people I think he's probably the best first baseman we've ever had, and the second best would have been Mankiewicz. I thought Mankiewicz was a great first baseman.
Yeah,
Fielding.
He was good. I liked all those guys.
Yeah.
They had that whole promo back then. It was get to know him, and we've got to see him.
That's right. Yeah.
That stuff, and then these guys became household names.
Mm-hmm. On the World Series team, my guy was Gaetti. I mean, my son was we used to always talk about how there were certain guys we liked that weren't maybe, of course I really liked Joe, and then Pucky was always was a guy, but we were in love with Luis Castillo. I loved Luis. Luis Castillo looked like a guy that had really bad arthritis. He ran funny. He looked stiff-legged when he walked up to bat. And there's a funny story because he used to play with Mike Redmond when they were with Miami, and they were in spring training, and he hit the ball in spring training, and he's literally hobbling down to first base, and Gardenhire looked like he'd been, tased or something, and he turns to Redmond and he goes, "Oh my gosh, does this guy always play like this?" And he goes, "Don't worry, he'll be fine." Just Redmond's like, "Trust me, he'll be fine." And he was. He was one of those players that, well, boy, when he was on the line, he was a great player. We were going to the game, and John had a Luis Castillo shirt on. We were going to the game. We were driving over the 35W bridge, and it was announced right before the game. It was announced that he'd been traded, I think, to the Mets.
Oh, man.
Yeah, and John, my son was probably. Well, he was little because he was in the back seat, so whatever year that was, 2006 maybe, he was 7 or 8 or whatever. He starts punching the roof of the car. He was so mad, so mad. So I've always had players like that. Nick Punto's another one for me.
Yeah, one of my favorites, I had a big thing for closers when I was growing up.
Oh, yeah.
I like Eckersley, but one of my favorite closers was Jeff Reardon.
Oh, yeah.
He was great.
Well, you know what I liked about Jeff was he had that, with that beard. Now guys have beards all the time, but back then no one had a beard, so he had that beard, and he looked sinister. And he'd stare in, and it was kind of frightening when they do that shot from home plate.
Yeah, he said he had to shave it for the first time in, I forget how many years, when he got traded to or signed with the Reds.
Oh,
because that's when, I forget her name.
Marge Schott?
Yep, and she had the dog.
Yeah, yeah.
They had like the Yankees thing, they had the clean shave, so he had to shave his beard.
I did not know that. That's interesting. He was a fierce reliever. I mean, I miss him. I guess, obviously our sort of all-star is Joe Nathan and really deserves that. But Reardon was a part of that team. So was Rick Aguilera.
Yeah, Rick was another good
one. Interesting. I liked Reardon a lot. I loved that 87 team because that was the team that there were no superstars on that team. I mean, a lot of people, I always tell people that the stat I'm going to ask you this question. See if you can name it. I do this with Will and Madison all the time. Okay. So can you name the top 3 pitchers on that 87 team?
87 was, oh my gosh. I'm on the spot here.
Okay. So I'm going to give you, so the first one was Frank Viola.
Oh, yeah, Frank Viola.
Yep. So he was the number one guy.
Sweet
He had that, Sweet Music, had the big sign out in right field, and had that amazing changeup, and just a great pitcher. Okay, so number 2 was an announcer for us for 1,000 years.
Yeah, Bert Blyleven was on there.
Bert Blyleven. So he was our number 2 guy. Now, no one can get number 3 ever. I find it hysterical that no one can ever remember who number 3 is. Number 3, Les Straker.
I was going to say, wasn't Dan? Was it Scherzer?
No, it was Les Straker. Les Straker, lifetime. Lifetime is a 10 and 15 pitcher. He pitched 2 years with the Twins. He was basically out of baseball right after that. But he was our number 3 guy on the mound that year. We had like Mike Smithson and John Butcher and some of those guys that were just mopping up, because they move everybody to the bullpen once the playoffs start. And both of those series, I think, went to full. I think it was 5 for the playoffs, and then the World Series was 7. So you just go through your best pitchers. It was that still amazes me that he was the guy or one of the guys. So he's got a World Series ring.
That's got to get hot at the right time. That's
yeah.
all you want.
I think that. What do you think? Okay, so give me your assessment of the team right now.
I mean, they're still in first place. What's their 18 games left? 17, 18?
17, I believe. Oh, after today, I think it's 16 now. But yeah.
I mean, doesn't look like they're going to play the Yankees, so I mean, might be able to get a postseason win out of this.
What do you? Okay, so looking back at the season, because I haven't talked to you at all about this. What has been the thing you've liked the most, and the thing that's been frustrating for you over this season?
Thing I like the most is I was really excited about the Correa signing, but that hasn't really panned out so far this year.
Yeah.
So watching different guys step up every night, different guys.
Royce Lewis.
Royce Lewis is. I mean, he is the story right now.
He really is.
But the negative thing is the bullpen. I don't know why Pagan still has a job in
Jax gave up the home run today. I was saying to Will earlier, Duran came in, and for the first time I can remember, last night we were up 3-2. We scored 2 runs in the bottom of the 8th. He comes in the top of the 9th, and it's 1-2-3, which is what you want from a closer. And I said that the knock on him, as far as I'm concerned, is he puts somebody on base every single time he pitches. And so that's my biggest fear. And I think it seems like, and maybe I'm not 100%, would have to look back, but it seems like Rocco has spent the time putting guys, letting the starters go into the 7th and even the 8th inning lately, which, that's obviously our strength. Okay, so for me, the hitting's been the biggest disaster this year as a team. Kepler's finally come on. Correa seems to be coming on, but Correa's been, sitting around 210, 220 the whole season. It's been frustrating. It's the guys that we've added to the team as the season's gone on that have really.
And those are the guys getting paid the most.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. I mean, Buxton, we can't look at it any other way than he's been a bust this season.
Well, I think one of the things I find the most frustrating, and I talk about this with Jack Michaels when we do the Red Hawks game, is the lack of the productive out. Everyone wants to swing for the fence now. Everyone wants.
Yeah.
What's wrong with moving a guy over, bunt hit, sacrifice, something like that? Because there is such thing as productive out if you can move runners over.
I don't know why extra innings aren't. It isn't mandatory that everybody on that team bunts to get that guy over to third. Get him to third. Safety squeeze, suicide squeeze, ground ball, pop fly, anything to get that run in. There's no excuse for not getting that run in, and that doesn't seem to be the thing. I agree with you.
Yeah, because it's easy to swing for the fence. I mean, there were barreled balls. I mean, I didn't pay attention to any of that stuff. It was guys who moved runners over.
Yeah.
Place the bunt. Ozzie Smith could do that.
Yeah.
Above, he can move runners. Brett Butler, when he was on the Dodgers, he did a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Move guys over. Yeah, they lower their batting average, but you moved the guy over. You did your job, and I think that's more of a team sport there rather than.
I know that it was a thing with I'm going blank on his name. Manager of the Yankees, famous Billy Martin. Billy Martin used to get, part of his practice was they would have to bunt. And I don't know if it was Reggie, but somebody on that, one of the big sluggers on the team, was like, well, I'm not bunting. He goes, if I tell you to bunt, you're going to bunt. And I agree with that. I mean, even, sometimes maybe you need Jim Thome just to bunt. And I know there's a lot of people out there listening probably going, no, what? No, you're going to have him swing away. Well, with the amount of strikeouts that Buxton's had this year, wouldn't you rather give you a shot? I mean, everybody, Rod Carew, do you know Rod Carew never had more than an 0-for-18 streak his entire career?
I didn't know that.
Which is crazy. And in his book, he talks about, he says, I knew if I was not swinging the bat well, I could always get on base in a bunt. And there's a picture in the book of him saying he had these, what he called magic zones, which were up the line about 15 feet, 5 in from the line where he'd bunt the ball, and during batting practice he'd try to bunt 7 balls in a row into those spots. And it's insane. I mean, most guys can barely get the ball down, which is crazy.
I'd be interested to see what the longest Luis Ariz has ever done without,
because he's a little bit of a free swinger. He doesn't walk as much as you would think he would for a guy with his kind of average, whereas Rod, walked all the time. So. Well, we got to get back to the show. Joe, thank you for stopping by. I saw you and I thought, hey, let's get him on the air. Let's talk about a little bit of the Twins since we haven't done the home run portion in a little while. And, the Twins are still in great shape. They're 7 up on the Guardians. I don't want to count anything before it happens, but they should make the playoffs. And if they make the playoffs, we're sitting pretty. I think after they won last night against Tampa, it shows we can beat them. There's a good chance we would play them in the playoffs. I don't know who we play out right out of the gate. It could vary. Probably somebody from the West. We don't know yet, but we got to get through a first round. And that first round apparently is all 3 games would be at the Twin Stadium.
Well, that works. That'd be
good. Yeah. They don't even travel for one of those games, which is great. Well, you're listening to 9790 KFGO. We've got KFGO Today coming on right now. I've got some segments for you.